Forefathers Bar Talk. This is our third in our series on our spirits and spirits in general. So today we're going to be talking about
gin. Wonderful, wonderful spirit with a long and storied history. It was also the spirit that sort of started this venture for us.
Absolutely.
One of our founding members, Brian Myers, who took a business trip to London, I believe. Had a really great experience with a gin distiller over there called Fordington's. Came back and wanted to sort of replicate the process here. 3 years later,
here we are with our three types of gin. So what is gin? I'm going to start with the TTB and then Noah will get into a little bit of kind of what the history of this is. So TTB simply says a gin is a distilled spirit whose primary flavor is juniper. Now that can be juniper derived from distillation. It can be from maceration. Quick note on that, maceration means if we put the juniper into the spirit before we distilled it and then let distillation happen. Distillation means that we're going to put the botanicals up in somewhere within the process of the vaporization. Or we can actually have compounding where in fact there's infusion. In other words, we soak various botanicals in the product after the fact. And any combination of those actually works. And in the case of our gins, actually all of those come into play. So talk to us about gin.
So gin's one of those historical spirits. Started off probably with a spirit called Genevier, which was a Dutch sort of Holland spirit distilled from malt wines in Alembic still. So back in the sort of 15 and 1600s, we did not have wonderful reflux stills. We only had Alembic and pot stills, which means the products coming off of them were much harsher and sort of more cogener heavy than today. So something like a malt wine, which has lots and lots and lots of sort of flavors that aren't necessarily super appealing to everyone's palates, back then had to be masked with botanicals. This was done in Holland, and one of the sort of native botanicals to that area was juniper, giving it the name Genevier, Genevier, and Genevier goes to gin.
Today, again, just on that note, so today Bowls is still a Dutch company, and they still make Geneviers, and in fact, incredibly good. But remember, if you're going to go out and try a Genevier, it's going to be sweeter. It is a liqueur in general in terms of classification.
In order to mask these flavors, it wasn't just juniper, it's lots of the botanicals you're seeing here today. Sugar, sometimes it was aged in oak. Again, it was sort of anything to knock down the harshness of the original spirit. And this was a process that sort of, or a purpose that stuck with gin throughout its sort of long history. As it moved with sort of conflicts in Europe to England, again, cheap spirits were being masked by the addition of juniper and other botanicals. As it moved to America during Prohibition, you have things called bathtub gins, which were stuff being produced from cakes of wine yeast and concentrated sugar made in an actual bathtub, again being masked with juniper and other things to hide that sort of disgusting taste. Any time in history that people wanted to make a harsh spirit a little less, or a little more palatable, juniper and these botanical addings were pretty common.
What I love about gins is that they have such history to them. And so if we think about it, you have the Dutch development of it to a large degree, goes to England. There's wonderful print by Hogarth that is Gin Lane compared with Beer Alley.
Or something.
Beer is good. You know, you see everybody in the beer engraving is happy and fat and all of this. And then you go to the Gin Lane and the most prominent is of course a mother. Her shirt's open, her child is dying and she's falling down the steps because she is so affected by the gin. The gins traveled with the British Empire. And so anywhere that the British Empire went, gin went with them. It became a tropical, quote unquote, medicinal, in that because of tonic and that idea. Today, a lot of those former colonies are producing absolutely fantastic gins, and I would argue some of them are far outstripping the English styles, the London Dries, the Plymouths, And so maybe the colonies, the
Former
former colonies
colonies.
are one-upping the formers.
Certainly in the craft movement, we don't often look to Britain as the progenitor. You look to New American dry gins, Southeast Asian gins, Indian gins, especially right now.
Indian gins are
having an excellent moment.
Absolutely.
If you could get your hands on them, please give it a try.
But even the South Americans, and we'll get to that one in a minute.
Yeah.
So, what else do you want to talk about here?
Well, I think it's worth talking about why we have 3 different gins and why they look so strikingly different. Most people's experience with gin probably looks pretty close to this, a clear white spirit. However, that both isn't historically true, as most historical gins probably look closer to this, and given modern distillation techniques and sort of really global spread of gin has taken on some very colorful
different
notes as of late. So we'll start with our basic gin, sort of talk about what it is, what's in it, why we did it.
Okay,
and
so
down the
So I started here, and this is again what I kind of conceived of as an American dry gin. So again, dry means obviously it's not sweet. In this case, what I wanted to do though, I again, love London dries. There's a whole range of them that are great, but they tend to be, for me, very juniper forward, and that some people at a bar and kind of my past as a bartender would say it felt like getting slapped in the face with a pine tree. And so there was something that in some cases was off balance in my mind on that, or at least different. And so here, what we do is juniper comes down a little bit, but what we actually have is a much, much wider palette. And so I'm not gonna give you the whole recipe, but we have 11 botanicals that go into this one. Angelica is very pronounced, as is a little bit of orris to stabilize the flavor. But then as you go towards the other end, you're gonna begin to hit citrus notes and then into kind of a licorice, a little anise note at the very, very tail. And that's what's wonderful about gins, is that gins are incredibly complex, or can be. So next,
this is pink gin. I'm going to let you tell the story. So this came about actually after our chief distiller, Jack Livingston's trip to South America and Peru in particular, right?
Right. So pink gins are not exclusively South American. The Irish right now are making some really, really good pink gins, very light. Pink gins, in my experience, are more floral. My experience in Peru, though, was with a really wonderful pink gin called Jinca, and Inca, play on the word. But so what there is a whole range of rainforest botanicals that really push the juniper down and expand the floral notes very, very broadly. Obviously, I can't get some of those rainforest botanicals, so what I wanted to do here was find what I could that was available and, in a sense, North American, and spread it that way. So what we have here, the color here, is a natural color. I'm not a big fan of using anything artificial. And so what you see here is hibiscus. Hibiscus, there's a rose hip note here, there's a bit of lavender note here. And so what it does is it adds this wonderful kind of melon and the floral notes to it. And it makes, again, a wonderful, much more broad gin. Very, very subtle in terms of its juniper.
Now, talking about the color, we were talking about maceration, distillation, and infusion. This is our gin that we see infusion in. So all gins will come out distilled, all products will come off distilled, clear as this. After it comes off distilled, we infuse it with hibiscus flower, giving it that color. So this is part of the infusion that we might talk about in a gin.
Right. Now this one is actually Noah's, to a large degree, his kind of idea. And so let's talk a little bit about what barrel rested gin is.
So barrel rested or Tomcat gin, again, is a historical product. Glass wasn't always cheap and plentiful. A lot of spirits, certainly in the early days of distillation, if you wanted to transport them, were put into oaken barrels. Oak barrels were easy to transport, easy to craft, easy to maintain, didn't have a habit of breaking, and you didn't need a 5,000 degree kiln to make glass with. So all of the sort of white spirits we think of today, from vodka to gin to white whiskeys, tequilas, any historical spirit, was usually oaked, and because of that, took on a barrel rested and sort of oaked characteristic. So this is our American dry gin, placed in a barrel for about 6 months, and it begins to pick up those barrel notes. You get vanilla, you get orange, you get a little bit of cinnamon and tobacco. And those play really well as the sort of juniper and other spices mellow and blend together as they sit together in the barrel. It is a spirit that is less like a gin and more like a whiskey, and when you are building cocktails with it, I would not sub it for a gin, I would sub it for a whiskey.
Yeah, and what I love about it is that if you think, again, cocktails at home, cocktails at a bar, perhaps one of the classics is the old fashioned and its riffs. What the barrel rested gin does is it almost takes your bitters and your whiskey and brings them together into a single bottle. And so you are able then to play with it even more. So for me, an old fashioned made with this, absolutely fantastic drink. And again, number of great distilleries right now are making great barrel rested gins. Look for gins that are this kind of amber in color.
Yeah.
Blue Coats.
Blue Coat was probably one of the earlier gins that popularized it. Bar Hill makes an excellent barrel rested gin.
MLH Distillery.
MLH Distillery, our contacts heard, but always good to shout out, some of the other people working in the industry.
Absolutely. So we're going to taste these now, and we're going to talk a little bit about what. Day drinking is always a good thing. We're going to start with our American dry. And I want to also suggest a couple things to you. First of all, I want to put this up here. Again, Noah is our head bartender. Makes a lot of our in-house syrups, and one of those that I just find fantastic is his tonic syrup. Now, again, there are great tonics out there, all sorts of them. Everyone has their preference in tonics. But you can make tonic syrup at home, or you can buy it. And I would encourage, in either case, that is a really strong option, again, for your home bar, because what that allows you to do is dial up or down that tonic flavor. And tonic and gin obviously go wonderful together, because in fact they're both botanicals and they're complementary botanicals. One of the downsides of some of the botanicals is cinnamon and its different varieties. When done in a distillate, it just keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter. It's really hard to work with. But
and a tea or a water solution, as most syrups are, it is very stable, and you can get a slight cinnamon note without it turning into fireball whiskey.
right. So here we go. Let's try our
American dry white gin.
So first thing you certainly get the juniper, but it's not quite pine tree-ish.
No, you get lemon,
Yeah, absolutely.
coriander, big time coriander.
Yep.
And a little bit of pepper that I think probably comes from our Grain of Paradise.
Yep, Grain of Paradise.
Special.
See, now you got another piece of a recipe, but
We'll give you the whole thing if you want. Just show us an email.
just
But yeah, no.
So
Grains
then
of
now,
Paradise and Kuba berry, which are two East Asian spices similar to black pepper.
now see, for me again, I know it's my gin, but what I like about it is that you taste all of those. You can actually move through, and if you take a minute and just really let it settle on your tongue, you're gonna like it. It's kind of like opening new Christmas presents. Oh, there's a little bit of this. Oh, wait a minute, I have a little lemon. Oh, wait a minute, there's a little bit of that coriander there. Oh, wait a minute, tastes clove, maybe clove. And it's wonderfully long and complex. All right,
Pink gin.
pink gin. Again, I love the color.
So this is a wonderful one to get a nose on.
Yeah, because
Hibiscus.
completely different. And again, what it really does is these types of pink gins drop that juniper almost to be not discernible in terms of the nose.
Yeah.
And again, what I get is a little bit of that melon as well with it.
For sure.
And I think that might be the combination, again, a little bit of rosehip and hibiscus here do that.
Lime, especially lime leaf.
Yep,
Lime leaf is one of the,
Kaffir lime.
botanicals in this, and it has a sort of woodier lime, more sort of, you've come across lime in a forest rather than
Right.
sweet savory.
What I always think of is Thai food. It's that little bit of lime in the Thai food. The other thing that I get with this is, again, there's no sugar in this, but it's sweet. It has a sweet note to it. Again, very subtle in terms of the juniper. Wonderful mixing spirit. Also wonderful with just soda.
Really great with citrus.
Absolutely. Okay, so now on to our complex
My favorite.
and just a whole different nose. Again, you get the
Orange,
vanillas, the oak, the
vanilla.
orange comes out, and again, there is no more orange in this than any of the others, but
The
the
oak
oak really makes it. Love day drinking.
It's very early here.
But again, it's completely cocktail. I mean, I guess that's the easiest way I can say this. When you drink one of these, and pour it on the rocks, and you feel like you have a whole cocktail.
It's complex. It evolves. There's almost a whiskey. Well, there is a whiskey spice that's coming from the oak. 70% of whiskey comes from the barrel, so 70% of this flavor is coming from that barrel too. So you get all those sort of oaky, drying, sweet vanilla notes from a bourbon-style barrel.
Right.
Then
Absolutely.
balanced at the back end with juniper and cardamom and coriander and lemon.
Now, the other thing I will say with this, and I think it is true of most of the barrel-rested gins, I think you probably know this better, but this one's a little bit higher proof. We do this at 96, and again, it's as with whiskeys.
The higher proofs, well, different proof ranges are going to express different flavors better. Gins are usually done at 80 because you want to open up the botanicals. Whiskeys, however, at least in my opinion, sort of express themselves better at a slightly higher proof between 90 and about 104. And it's the same case with barrel-aged gin, seeing as they are a hybrid spirit next to whiskey.
Yeah, with this, one of the things about the barrel-rested gins, the barrel-aged gins, is that they really do lend themselves to a big block of ice. If you pour this just over a block of ice in a rocks glass, what you're going to find is as that slowly dilutes, you're going to get all of these flavors opening up even more. And so over the course of a cocktail, which I really like to think about it that way, cocktails should be an experience. It's not something you just throw down. It's something that you really, really enjoy. And this is one that absolutely does that. A quick note also, just you'll notice that I say barrel rested on ours versus aged. Gins, even though they are put in a barrel,
Do age.
do
Time does pass.
TTT says they are not age designation. So, barrel rested gin. Again, other point I just want to, I'm going to have this. So I'm going to take our tonic, or our gin, and a little bit of your tonic syrup. And then, again, if you ever can get one of these, it's his idea, but soda siphons, they're just good looking and they work really, really well. What else could make you at home look like a great bartender? Pulling out your soda siphon and doing this. And so again, that just, again, it's wonderful, slightly sweet. The citrus notes come up a little bit more, but I'm able to control what I want to do with it here, whether I want it subtle or whether I want it big.
Absolutely. And again, this tonic syrup I developed specifically to go with our white gin, and it allows it to really blend sort of seamlessly with the other product. This is something.
Send him an email. And
I will give you the recipe. Absolutely. I might even leave it in the show notes for this episode.
Boy, that's good.
Okay. So, gin,
and gin.
a wonderful spirit. To drink at 11 o'clock.
Until next time, Forefathers Bar Talk.
Thank you so much.